go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back here once again. Now, we've done how many rounds now? 5?
4 rounds of the Urizen Gauntlet run. We find ourselves at the second to last round here, nearing the end. As round 5 begins, Urizen finds himself in a bit of a mode of depression and anxiety after he has basically been slaughtered by the Demon King factions, only to arrive in the human world and then get cucked by the Pope. Um,
It has not been a good
so
story.
Yeah, it has not been a good day for Urizen. But maybe he can pull some W's, or maybe like a draw in these two
This is so
next
sad.
fights. So in this faction we have what's known as the Humanity faction. Now you might be thinking this is just humans like Lady and maybe like characters like Beryl and whatnot. Yes and no. So there are a lot of characters in DMC that don't really fit into a particular faction, demonic or otherwise, because they have desires while as a human to gain demonic power that isn't specifically related to goals of the demon world or demon world factions. Characters that are shown to be here would be characters like Arius, Arkham, Chen, and even characters like Lucia, because we don't have like a Devil Hunter faction, and as you know, we already have characters like Trish with the Order of the Sword. So, and the last faction is kind of going to explain why we won't put any of the Devil Hunters together, because a lot of them are going to be going into the last faction that's going to be mentioned after this one. So, for this reason, there's going to be a couple characters that might not make sense in the same faction, such as Arius and Lucia. As in this simple example, we'll just say that this is just a timeline where she's like a prototype weapon for Arius that doesn't figure out what her like purpose is, and like you know, she never meets Mathieu essentially, but she still has all the same powers, abilities, and like equipment somehow, um, and still gets the humanity boost somehow. Somehow, I don't know. It doesn't have to make sense. We're just
Oh,
using the
right. Shoot, I forgot I was on Discord. Dang it. No, you're fine. I just have to. I just clicked. I just need to click out something.
then obviously Chen at like the peak of his strength with like the beast heads. Um, Arkham at the peak of his strength. So Zim, do you wanna give him the Sparta sword? I mean, I don't know if it. I mean, I guess it kind of makes a difference.
Well, okay. So you said peak. You said peak of strength. Then so then like it is Arkham peak of strength not Sparta sword?
I guess he would be because that was kind of his desire. So yeah. Um, so then the last one is kind of left up to like two places which were interchangeable. One of them was Lady, and the other was Alan Lowell from the DMC anime, the alchemist that basically sealed Abigail away.
Yes.
Um, who do you want to decide? Because I don't think it really makes that much of a difference, as Alan Lowell is only useful with prep time.
How dare you?
Okay, we'll just give it Lady and then say like Lady full arsenal. So Lady from like with like
You sound so
double Queen
dejected.
Anne,
You
yeah.
sound so dejected there.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So let's be clear here. This Humanity faction has Arius at the helm. He will be fighting Urizen, and his four generals will be Lady, Lucia, Chen, and Arkham, versus Malphus, Artemis, King Cerberus, and Cavalier Angela with the Garian Knight.
I think it's also worth noting as well that among all the ones we've done so far, this one will probably be the one that's most assumptuous.
It's going to be very odd. We'll say,
Also,
we'll say,
like Mangler explained for Lucia, that like for Lucia being here, there is a plan for potentially one more, but he didn't want her being part of the final faction.
yeah, it wouldn't really make sense. It's not specifically a Devil Hunter faction, but it includes a lot of the Devil Hunter. You'll know when we see it. We'll explain it when it happens. It'll be very, very obvious. Um, so basically, let's start with the generals. So I guess do you wanna start with Arkham or Lucia and then go down the list of their matchups, or just do like Artemis versus
Okay,
like all
so
of the.
what are we giving Arkham?
Well, he has all of his powers as Jester, and
Okay,
all the powers he got from the ritual.
okay.
And I guess he gets the Force Edge. So he gets like the pseudo Sparta DT and the blob form if he wants to transform into it. Because again, the entire reason he gets the blob form at all is because the desire to become more powerful is born in his heart, and that's what the description says. So like he literally only transforms into it because he wants to. Um, so
So
yeah,
we
we just give him that.
so then we are giving him like DT Sparta Trick or whatever.
Yeah, if he wants to activate it, but I'm assuming he's
Oh,
obviously going to activate it.
yeah, like I mean
Oh,
like
keep in mind, this is equalized, by the way, guys. This is not. I have to say that again, as we do at every video. This is an equalized scenario.
every time we do
Obviously,
humans.
if this were lore accurate, everyone on this team would get slaughtered in like 5 seconds flat.
Oh, hang on, he has the power
Also,
of
not
Sparta, Mangler. You know that's a pretty good buff.
shut up. Okay, so where do we go from here?
All right.
Arkham versus the Urizens, or the Urizens versus like Arkham versus Urizen's faction, or like Artemis versus Arius' faction. Would you want to? I mean, either one, we still ride in the same
I was gonna say let's just do it. Normally we do it like what defenders usually. Usually it's like Bulwark versus this. So like let's just do it Arkham versus
Yeah,
this.
so defenders versus aggressors, I guess. We really should have established that in the format. Oh well. So Arkham versus Artemis. All right.
I can already feel you struggling a little bit.
So we know he has all the powers of Jester, which does include the ability to basically,
Create a barrier.
well, not. I was gonna say some BFR, but he's not. He doesn't even have battlefield removal. He just has like a weird portal where it's like if you choose to enter it, you can go into his arena. So like what non-mandatory BFR? Click once to enter my area. You don't want to? Okay, I guess I'll just wait here until you do. So assuming, I guess if he just does, if he just like starts using all of his gesture powers in the area, he can create like a small little barrier and then just summon a bunch of those orbs out of like portals. Those really small, slow-moving orbs that can't hit like anything and
Well,
are really
nah,
only like dangerous
I think we're
in
being
like a
I
small.
think you're being a little unfair there. He does set it up in an area to where you can't really like you can avoid
Okay,
them,
so
but like he does do a decent job like setting up like an area for to use them effectively.
well, yeah, because the entire area is closed off.
I've seen nothing
But
wrong
like
with it.
in this scenario, he's fighting in the human world.
Well, hang on. If we're gonna give him Jester's powers, is that not give him Jester's ability to create like like a portal?
Well, yeah, but like we're operating under the assumption that Artemis would follow him. Like,
Yeah. So
wouldn't it?
if she enters his realm, then like that's gonna give him massive
Oh no, if
advantage.
she enters his realm, that'll give him massive advantage. Though she'll probably just fly above the orbs until he does the one portal. So there's three portals that he can do. There's portal number two, which shoots out like orbs slowly one after another, overlacing from one direction. There's portal number three, which shoots them like all around the arena in different directions. And then there's portal number one, which shoots like 8 to 10 of them down at you like violently, like at the fastest possible speed, like a shotgun. That's probably going to be his best tactic to like hit her. And then using obviously the exploding like circus ball thing, and like the basically the red door grab things, like the the magic door demonic hands
Yeah.
that grab the floor when you try to move around. Like basically like those are probably going to be his best conditions to grab her, and then just eventually maybe just like jumping around and doing aerodynamics with the Sparta DT and attempting to hit her. I mean, it's not like we should assume that like he doesn't have the ability to fly with Sparta DT. That'd be ridiculous. When Dante can do it with like a fraction of Sparta strength in a completely
Uh,
different double trigger.
can you confirm? Can you confirm?
Do we have a screenshot that he actually flew?
I'll take a statement. In its original Japanese translation, of course.
So I think it's pretty comfortable that he could probably reach Artemis. It's just like Artemis isn't really intelligent, like very intelligent. So I think you could probably make an argument he could reach her, though his weapons are less than conventional, so he's actually going to have a more difficult time than probably everyone else in his faction trying to hit Artemis. It's going to be probably medium difficulty for him to beat Artemis when Artemis has like no defensive mechanisms outside of just shooting like light projectiles and whatnot. Also, technically, Arkham might have a defense against that because he's actually fought Dante before multiple times as both Jester and as himself. So he's probably seen Artemis's abilities already because Dante canonically does pick it up in DMC3. So he might not know that it's Artemis, but he'll be like, "Oh, I recognize that. I've seen those before." Why did I just dodge?
What is that noise?
And then if he decides to get like really upset, he can just transform into the blob form and then just start shooting like the demon spaghetti tracking noodles that are like really annoying.
Oh no!
Super irritating.
Make no mistake. If we give him a blob form, he wins. Like just like no diff.
The spaghetti is dangerous. I think there's the legions. Just summon a bunch of like exploding legions. And they can jump off the floor, so you're not safe if you're in the air.
Unfortunately, Artemis just isn't.
Go ahead.
Hang on, and unfortunately, there's just like nothing really Artemis can do in this situation.
Yeah, I say this is a win for Arkham. Okay, so
I'm shocked. Is Urizen's faction starting off with a loss? Say it ain't so.
All right, now we have Malphus.
Oh.
So,
oh, good.
This is probably a bad time to mention this, but also like the only time. We just got the Visions of V chapter for the Malphus fight, and you want to know how Malphus gets put in disadvantage? She just gets stabbed when she's portal hopping, just like we said. Only it's even worse. Now, granted, it's Nero who's doing it, but he's not even exceeding his red queen. He's just slashing her with normal strikes. I don't see any reason why Arkham would treat it differently, especially since he's got like a bunch of hopping and portal shenanigans, barriers, and like phasing stuff that he can do to avoid attacks. He also has several feats in his interactions with Lady where he can just blatantly like jump on the sky. Like he can jump out of the ground and just ignore the laws of physics and stand on midair upside down and just avoid a bunch of attacks. I would also like to mention that technically Arkham, canonically speaking, should have knowledge of like most demon magic and any forms of magic because he's not only consistently aware of all of the knowledge of the alchemy spell era, but he also knows the various spells that were used by the Order of the Sword. Because the book in Deadly Fortune that Lady finds in Fortuna actually reveals that some of the spells that were used to steal the Temnegru Tower away were the same ones that were used by the Order of the Sword. So he would have access to alchemy, and he would have access to generic forms of magic and sorcery as well, known to both demon and mankind, in addition to his powers as a jester and his powers accompanying the Sparta sword. So he's probably going to be just as good, if not a mage than Malphus, which Malphus being like the best magic user is literally her only claim to fame. and it's not even like that relevant now because we now have just a better magic user that has a better form of power and a better ability. It's abilities that don't involve teleporting and exposing yourself and being like a giant meat shield. Okay. Yeah, so he's just gonna stab her every time he goes through the portals. We've been through these shenanigans. Malthus loses. Okay. Anything to add?
So no, Malphus again. Like, well, yeah. Do we even need to still talk about Malphus at this point? Every fucking time she comes up, it's just an instant loss for her.
She only beat the Savior because she was the only one who could teleport inside his body. Oh.
All right.
All right.
So easy wins there. Next up is going to be King Cerberus, or do you want to do Cavalier?
King Cerberus. So King Cerberus is weird because, as we've kind of established in the Urizen Gauntlet runs, his first phase doesn't really go well for him because the fire phase doesn't actually grant him any unique properties or anything. Like he just covers his body in fire and then physically attacks you. He doesn't extend his range with the fire or do any AoE or do any like projectiles. It's only until he gets to the lightning phase that he actually starts getting like some form of utility. Unless the person he's fighting just wants to like defend. But Arkham isn't like that. Arkham likes to evade and move around a bunch and use spells. So he's probably just going to try and zone King Cerberus with his little bubbles. And if we know, like, based on his like little barrier thing, he's probably just going to shoot tons of these projectiles in this room, and King Cerberus is a massive target. So more than likely, I could see King Cerberus taking massive damage for the first two phases. Because for the lightning phase, well, Arkham could just fly, or just move, or jump.
Well,
Or
okay, hang on. I think we do have to establish that, in fairness, by the time this occurs, like, Arkham's only going to get a short amount of time in the Sparta Devil Trigger, so I don't think we should be relying on win cons via Sparta Devil Trigger. Or, like, things that Sparta Devil Trigger can do, you know?
I think that's kind of fair, given that like he knows what its abilities are, and he's researched it extensively. It's kind of been his shtick. I mean, imagine all that time and years researching it just to like not know what it does.
No. I'm not saying there's no what it can do. I'm saying that like he turns into a blob like 2 seconds later.
Yeah, because he chooses to power up further.
Okay,
not because he couldn't control that.
Okay, so you're suggesting that.
Well, so a lot of this is a misconception that people have with Arkham is that they assume he lost control and transformed to the blob form. It is literally stated verbatim in the description that it's not born of Sparta's power, but the evil desire in his heart. He wanted to overflow himself with like raw energy and just become that form. That form is literally like a representation of his greed.
Yes, I understand that, but like he does lose that form. Like he does go into that form rather quickly.
I mean, we can still give him a couple attacks. Come on.
It's like, please, the blob form really needs all that help, Zim. I promise you.
Well, so here's the thing. If he goes into the blob form, then all King Cerberus can really do is go to the ice form. But at that point, like, does it really matter? Because, I mean, he's King Cerberus, I get it, so his ice is more impressive, but this is an equalized scenario where you don't get to AP stomp people, and you're fighting a guy that's is not only fighting, already scales above, like, a member of the Cerberus tribe, Cerberus, he's fought Dante, who with his powers would have been amping and buffing the Cerberus tools, and they didn't do jack shit to Arkham. So I don't know what like maybe we could argue it'll freeze him for a little bit, sure, but like he'll probably just break out because like unlike the examples of a lot of other characters in the series, like we actually have Like, because we can't say that like the generals have like the same consistent resistance to ice because Dante doesn't take Cerberus with him to Malay Island. Whereas we can directly say that Arkham would because Dante has Cerberus and uses it multiple times in the game. So yeah, it's completely fair game to say that if he's fought a Cerberus before, that the king of them, that's again like really all we can give King Cerberus in an equalized scenario is that his ice just has like more range, and he has just better projectiles in AOE. Not that it would like freeze you for longer. We don't have any like statements that would clarify that. Like the reason he scales above the other King Cerberus is because the other Cerberus is because he's more powerful than them. So I would say in an equalized scenario, it's not going to matter. If Arkham goes to the blob, if Arkham doesn't go to the blob form, he's probably going to get frozen solid. But I'm pretty sure if he wants to start dealing out pretty massive damage, he's going to go into the Sparta DT. If he gets frozen in the Sparta DT, then he'll just go blob and just break out, and then he's just be like, "Oh, all my legions," and then he'll melt into the ground while his legions just start like because he does do that. He basically evicts himself from the area and melts into the ground while his legions just throw themselves at the enemy and
Well,
explode on them.
I'm not saying that I'm not saying that fucking he would lose, right? Like his legions wouldn't be useful. No, I absolutely do believe that.
I don't know. I'm not saying you're saying. I'm saying that that's probably what he would do based on what he actually does in the boss fight. Is that he would just be like, "Later, suckers," and then just leave. Like, "Go, my children, kill him,
Suck it, losers.
sick that dog." But yeah, so he probably would just do that, and I think King Cerberus probably performs better than Artemis or Malthus, if only because he like kind of pushes them to move further. But like, I mean, that's really it. Like, actually, wait, no, that's not even true because technically he probably would take more damage sooner than Malthus or Artemis because he's such a massive target. He gets hit by the entire ring circus attack because his body's so massive. All right, Cavalier, the only guy who can take W's from every faction. All
Dude,
right, so
it's just not fair.
so the time manipulation. Dante had Quicksilver.
At this point, time manipulation we just say is for flavor text.
If it works, thank God. If it doesn't work, well, whatever. It was nice to be along for the ride anyway. Okay, free meat shield. Yeah, so Garion is basically just a free meat shield here. That and he has the ability to like displace himself with like time jumps, so he can be used for like repositioning and like bluffs and whatnot. But like, I'll be honest, bluffs aren't really useful when your enemy can just leave the area and fill the area with a bunch of suicide bombs that seek you out relentlessly. It's kind of not like relevant at all. Um, I think overall he's going to do like the ring circus attack, and he's probably not going to hit anything. He's going to realize it's not that effective. He'll just start spamming some magic and then transform the Sparta DP, try to hit him. Probably realize it won't do anything because Cavaliers is going to keep teleporting around. And then if he does manage to get him off the Garian Knight, if he does manage to get him off the horse, Cavalier will just keep teleport slashing and shielding and teleport slashing, and then he will just go blob and then shoot spaghetti monsters, um, and then just evict the area and summon suicide bombs. I think Cavalier probably has the best chance to do like damage over time because he's just gonna keep poking Arkham at a distance with a spear, and it's gonna be really effective compared to most of the weapons that the other generals have at like a range. And then, well, I think Arkham's really his only win condition is like the blob form because nothing he has is gonna be able to hit Garion or hit Cavalier because Garion he's just going to keep using Garion's like time jumps to just move himself around. So yeah, I think that's I think you could probably say if he just pokes and he plays it safe enough and then just keeps jumping and jumping and jumping and poking and sweeping, he could probably actually beat Arkham because you can destroy the legions without them like killing you. You just have to be careful because he could just actually no, he probably might just win flat out because the main problem with the Arkham legions is that if you have a weapon that's big enough, you can actually swing it around in a 360-degree like circle and just hit them. And Cavalier's weapon is more than big enough because it is a giant broadsword. So he could just swing like one direction and take out like all the Arkham's legions before they're even remotely close to him. And he can camp behind his shield and then just teleport away. So he has multiple ways to remove disadvantage and just keep poking people from behind his shield. And of course, he gets like one free meat shield for several attacks that can also teleport him around and keep him safe. Yeah, actually, I think if Arkham somehow does with that, it's extremely high difficulty. It's probably a moderate win for Cavalier. At least I think so. What are your thoughts?
No, I think that's fair. Not really too much to say here.
So we got 3-1. Arkham. So Lucia. All right. So Lucia is a playable character, and you guys know what that means. If you haven't figured this out already, playable characters get broken arsenals. So she gets to fight Artemis. I know, Lucia versus fake Lucia. Very, very classy. Um, so Artemis's advantage is that she can fly. Lucia, funny enough, has a direct statement in the guidebooks that she actually has an infinite supply of ceremonial civil daggers. So it's like literally infinite. So she can actually just keep firing these daggers at a range forever and ever and ever. She can also infuse them with like ice in her devil trigger and time. So she has multiple ways to slow and stop Artemis. She can also fly in her devil trigger. So yeah, she'll just chase after Artemis repeatedly. And Artemis's only way to deal with her is by shooting sort of okay tracking projectiles, but that's not really like so that's not really practical when like Lucia's arsenal was good enough as designed that it could be used against someone like possessed Arius, which we've established in the Argosax run in round 3 that possessed Arius's projectiles are insanely good. They were good enough to beat Cavaliers. Like there's no Artemis has no chance to beat something like that. Yeah, I don't think Artemis has like the firepower necessary to take on Lucia. Plus, Lucia has the stupid flip escape thing that she can keep doing. The amulets are really good, and she also has cranky bombs. Which again, you can just drop them right there, explosive to cover your escape. She can also just throw them to any distance she wants, and the remote explosives that are also timed. So she can basically cap off certain sections of the area with these bombs, while she's also throwing daggers that also become tracking daggers when she's in double trigger, by the way. So they're basically anti-airs against an aerial enemy. Would you look at that?
You could just argue that because just mobility alone, she would already have a massive advantage too, or not? She, yeah, no, she.
Oh yeah, no. She can also get like way faster in double trigger with the amulets on top of the speed she was already getting. So yeah, it's not looking too good for Artemis. Next up, we have.
I mean, like, I'll be surprised, realistically speaking, if we can make arguments that any of them actually fucking beat Lucia.
Malphus. Okay, so
Just fucking
Arkham,
don't even talk
Arkham
about
beat
it.
Malthus. Arkham beat Malthus, the guy that literally spends every scene talking to Virgil about how great evil is. That fucker. Lucia is definitely going to beat Malthus. For all the reasons I just said she would beat Artemis. Because Malthus is a giant hitbox, or a giant hurt box, and doesn't have the ability to fly, and her teleports suck. End of story, moving on. Okay. King Cerberus. So, first phase, giant meat shield that's going to take massive amounts of damage. Second phase, he's going to go into a lightning form and use slightly better, sort of, well, actually slower tracking projectiles than what Artemis has, and most of which are kind of grounded, again, which Lucia will be able to counter. I think the third phase is really all she's kind of got, or all he's really got to deal with, like, Lucia. There's just the problem that Devil Trigger has this wonderful little thing that it can do in lore, where it can nullify status conditions. So even if he does freeze her, she can just transform into her Devil Trigger form and just nullify the ice. Also, she has the Frost Heart, so what she'll do, because Lucia is not an idiot, she'll just see King Cerberus, like energize his she'll see him energize his head, right? And see that, oh, you basically have three different elements, one for each phase. That makes sense. Well, look at that. I have a fire heart, a lightning heart, and an ice heart. And I'm not only able to equip and do this kind of damage, I can also heal from that damage if it's inflicted upon me. So she'll just switch to the following hearts when she's in the phase and will nullify and actually buff the damage that she would receive normally by making it heal her instead. So yeah, she'll just perform like wholesale damage conversion of his entire phase, rendering all of his attacks outside of basic physical attacks useless, and then she could just zone and camp him from a distance. Um, yeah. So King Cerberus loses. All right.
Hang on.
Um, I was expecting some resistance there, but okay.
No, well, here's the thing. Like, I'm gonna be honest. I don't think Lucia loses to any of them in an equalized fight.
Cavalier, maybe we can get something. All right, all right. Well, so time shenanigans might work, but Lucia can see the time bubbles, and she's not an idiot. She's also very, very evasive, so she'll probably just do flip escapes. And, well, I think it's reasonable to say that if she has the Chrono Heart, she'll probably be able to cancel or disable any of the time bubble shenanigans that happen. So, like, she might be able to, like, Devil Trigger and, like, maybe not break the time bubble, but she might be able to disable it by hitting Garion with her own time manipulation. Assuming she fires it, because her daggers are extremely fast. They are very fast, and she can keep firing them indefinitely. She can also fire them omnidirectionally, and she can summon about a dozen of them on command to immediately, like, just basically find whatever person he needs to find whatever person she needs to seek out immediately. So I think even if we argue the time manipulation works, she could just find a way around that, either by flight, avoiding it, and just playing it really safe. Um, I think ultimately she's not going to have that much trouble stopping Garion, because the problem is that, like, Garion's win cons are mainly time jump around and then shoot projectiles with, like, lightning and overlap the entire map with, like, time manipulation, right? But as we've established, she has ways to get around that. She's actually quite intelligent, so she basically has, like, no disadvantage for a lot of the reasons that demons would normally have disadvantage. They lack, like, proper tactics. She doesn't. So basically, she could just keep zoning forever. And Garion, while he does time jump every now and then, he's not going to be time jumping every single instant. And even if he does, he has to come back into the arena at some point to attack. And she can just keep shooting silver daggers over and over and over and over and over again. And as you guys are familiar, DMC2's guns are quite strong. So, I mean, that is like gameplay, but like keep in mind, like they're still very potent. So she can just keep throwing them forever. And even not, she could still like chase Gary regardless. I think eventually it's just going to come down to a 1v1. And, well, she's just going to start shooting. She'll probably just start shooting the Chrono Heart and other things. Or she'll just equip the Lightning Heart, the Electro Heart. And that'll be a wrap. Because Cavalier at that point will only be able to do like raw physical damage to her. And all electrical attacks, like even if Cavalier runs Lucia through, which he probably will multiple times if he gets a couple lucky teleport slash, every attack he does is not going to do full damage because part of the attack is going to heal Lucia. And then Lucia is just going to heal herself further with Devil Trigger. So she's just going to find a way and a tactic around this over time after fighting Cavalier. Not to mention, she also has the humanity boost. So one might argue that she'll get stronger over time. So even in an equalized scenario, she might just beat him through attrition. But I would just say the Electro Heart kind of nullifies that condition. Like it just makes the situation way worse for Cavalier because everything he does is just going to heal Lucia. Any further comments, concerns, thoughts?
No, if you're gonna get the amulet as well, it's just fucking. Oh, it's just over. Like any chance you had, no.
All right, Chen.
Do we really need to do this?
Yes.
Okay.
So, go ahead. Maybe you can do it.
Are we giving the beast heads? Are we giving the beast heads manglers? Is that what you're saying?
Well, at his peak, he did absorb the beast heads and Sparta's DNA. Yes.
Do we really need to have this discussion? Are we really gonna have this discussion?
Hey, if you don't want to, I will.
Okay. So I guess we'll.
Well, actually, there is a couple people in our audience that don't actually understand or misunderstand what that entails when Chen gets access to the beast heads. So why don't you explain it to them?
What do you want? Omniscience, future sight, the ability to warp all of reality in any way, shape, or form you want, the ability to gain the skills and abilities of any fighter you choose. Like, what do you want? You can have it all.
I would also like to point out, as of Pinnacle of Combat, we have confirmed that even Pluto, when he's not fully revived after breaking his seal, can give a fraction of his weakened power, a small fraction of his weakened power, to one of his associates, to one of his guardians, and that person with a small fraction can see the future of every single being in the existence of the human world, the demon world, and the worlds beyond them, with just a very small portion of a weakened person who's not even a demon king level. The beast heads have a direct statement by Chin, as per the Japanese version, that when he gets the power, that his desire is that he wants to see all of the history from the beginning to the end, all of time, and he wants to see through all time and all dimensions. And he stated directly to have infinite knowledge multitudes of times. So his omniscience includes all times, all things that exist in time, and any sort of dimensions that are included. So all timelines, alternate or otherwise, are accessible to him, and all knowledge is accessible to him, with the exception of people who can keep their secrets hidden. But Artemis would not be one of those people, because really only demon kings and characters that would scale to demon kings are capable of keeping their secrets hidden. So really only like the Spartas and the Demon Kings.
I'm
And characters
just
that have specific statements.
I'm just gonna be real here. This isn't a conversation. The second you give him the beast heads, there is no tower. He's one. We could throw him up against Urizen and he would still win.
Well, maybe. Actually, no, he'd probably still win because even if he doesn't have like the fucking future sight, what does it matter? He has access to every power and ability like under the sun that he wants and can create, and he's now as skilled as Sparta is. So any skills that you've ever seen Sparta use, and all of his knowledge and tactics, keep in mind like he has direct feats with this that he could actually outsword DMC2 Dante. So yeah, I think Artemis is gonna lose. Probably pretty quickly.
You sure? You sure about that? You really need to think on that one?
Yes. Malthus. Free space. Skipping. Okay, King Cerberus. Phase 1 is a free space, Phase 2 is a free space, Phase 3 might actually do something if he didn't have omniscience and didn't know how it worked, so he'll just desire the ability to have, like, ice resistance. Or what Chen will probably do is Chen will just create or produce his little like magical gel that he has in his laboratories because he actually developed a magical gel specifically to shut down demons' powers by absorbing their demonic energy because he also knows how that works. And he'll just say like, "I want the power to inject this inside of someone's body from like a distance," and he could just have that. He could just create that power for himself and just inject it inside of Cerberus's body in one of the phases and have it drain its power before it even gets to the ice phase. And he could realistically do that, and he would be within the capacity and within character and within his right to do that. That's aside from the fact that he could also just produce an equivalent amount of flame to melt all the ice. He could literally just wish for like a barrier of smoldering hellfire that just burns Cerberus repeatedly, so all the ice gets like melted as soon as it comes out. Or he could just produce a stronger volume of ice, or literally anything, because he's omniscient and he has the ability to create any amount of powers or abilities that he wants. Okay, King Cerberus. Not King Cerberus, Cavalier Angelo with the Girian Knight. So V was able to beat him with a cane, a panther, and a bird. I think a guy with omniscience and every power and ability in the verse of Devil May Cry can probably beat the Garian Knight.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
I think that's reasonable.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm fairly certain. Yeah, I don't really need to explain that. Like any amount of, like I want to go into detail, but like what else could I possibly further explain at this point? Like this guy has every single power ability that you've ever seen throughout the series. He could just wish himself to have the skill and experience of the strongest and most capable fighters in the series. So he will literally have the tactics, the brilliance, and the intelligence of the best fighters around, with the best arsenal around. So he could just, it's like he turned on a video game, turned on like all the pro like hacks codes for the best character in the game, and then buffed them to the point where they're literally breaking the game and they're completely unstoppable, and no one else has access to these codes. But they have to legally play the same game with him in like a multiplayer session, and he doesn't ever get banned for it. That's Chen. Also Despair and Body, but mainly Chen. But yeah. So Cavalier probably also loses.
Really? Are you sure? Because I just want to make sure. Maybe I like the way first. Oh wait, hang on. All right, I'll just leave that alone.
All right, so Lady. I think we decided on Lady
Because it would. Lady.
Yeah, it's just easier to work with Lady. We have like Arsenal, like whereas Elmo, you kind of have to give them prep time and a lot of powers that he may or may not have. Okay, so Lady with her full arsenal would have access to like her standard pistols, submachine guns, and clean ammo. We can give her her rocket launcher from like DMC5, so she has like clean ammo too. Um, that's about it. So Lady versus Artemis. Well, Lady, it kind of does speak a little volumes when Lady is like the one who was meant for the host of Artemis. Needless to say, though, um, she has a gun that has tracking projectiles, a extension bayonet, and like heat seeking. So she's probably going to be able to shoot Artemis down and clip her wings. And for those of you who think like Lady might have problems with range projectiles, she could just shoot them out of the air. She's also fast enough to react to lesser demons. If we have feats from Deadly Fortune that she is able to fight Mephistos after the True Hellgate is open, and she does just fine. She's also able to even destroy like intangible beings made of like shadows. So she'll be able to hit any of them if they try to hide here. And Artemis doesn't have that kind of protection. So Artemis is probably going to get rocked by Clean Anne and Double Clean Anne.
All right.
Now, when we get to Malphus, it gets a little bit trickier because every person that we've been dealing with has like some evasive capabilities or something like good to that extent. And all Lady has is the ability to like roll and like jump and shoot her pulling the hand into the ground to blow herself away. Whereas Malphus can teleport, and even though her teleports are shitty, they're still teleports. So one could argue she could actually just stab Lady through the teleports multitudes of times and can just run away. Now she's probably gonna get hit multiple times because her body is massive, but she'll also be able to hit Lady several times because, well,
Do you think she'll be able to hit
part of
several
this is
times?
well, so part of this is going to come as no surprise to anyone else, but Lady can't sense demonic energy.
That is true,
So
but we've seen how Malphus fights.
I know, but like, how do you react to like a hand coming out of like from behind your vision,
Well, you can.
stabbing you in the back?
Well, it's to be fair, it does glow. It does leave out particle traces and everything.
Sure, but if it's like outside of your field of vision, like you kind of have to hope it has like a sound effect or something because there's basically no way for you to pick up on it. I mean, yeah, most of the
Well, does
attacks
it
are going
not
to be
make a sound in the
reflective.
game?
It does a little bit, I think. It just kind of depends on like how loud you think the sound is. Because like it sounds like an alien portal sound, to be honest. So it's a little bit high pitched. It's not like super high pitched. I guess this is a really weird situation. So I guess it comes down to you if whether or not you think Malphus's portals make enough noise so that she can stealth kill Lady. If not, Lady probably beats her with like homing and tracking rockets. Because projectile to projectile, Lady has a better setup and weapons. Um,
Well, I mean, like, unfortunately,
yeah,
Malphus's moves are highly predictable, and unless she gets like a sneak attack off, well, Lay's gonna figure out how she fights, and then he's just going to fucking destroy him.
yeah.
And
So
she's
I think
always gonna.
Malphus could potentially win if like she just sneak attacked, but that's like not completely in character. She kind of attacks from the front. She's very overconfident. Um, I mean, granted, she has every right to be because in the story she's more powerful than most of the Demon Kings, but equalized scenario, so that doesn't matter. A level playing field, she's kind of garbage.
Malphus is garbage on it. Yes, if they haven't figured it out by now.
If you guys haven't figured that out by now, then stop watching these videos and go get some help. King Cerberus. So first phase, I think, is going to be the same thing as everyone else. She's probably just going to take some rockets. He's going to take some rockets in the face. Second phase is probably going to start presenting a couple problems for her because while she can deal with the tracking projectiles, that lightning and the lightning that specifically hits the ground is going to have a good chance of hitting her because she's not very aerial. Like all she's got is the ability to blow herself out of the ground with the clean and rockets. Now she can do that, granted, but like she can only do it so many times and she doesn't have aerial time. She can't like defy the laws of physics. All she can use is use the knockback from the rocket launcher to like reverse her momentum or like move herself around. So basically all she's got is the opportunity to like sort of maneuver like once, maybe twice in the air after she's lifted off. And all Cerberus has to do is just spam the ground lightning attack until she comes up. So he might not even need to get to the ice phase. And then
So,
he could use tracking projectiles to lock her down
what,
until
which
where
is,
she's
which,
forced to like.
which is lightning form? You think he'll be able to lock her down with just lightning form?
Well, yeah, because well, so think about it. She has no aerial momentum, so all she can do is shoot the rocket down below her feet to launch her up in the air, like the double jump, and then she can shoot herself. She can shoot one way in the air with the rocket launcher, assuming she can fire it again like immediately, like that quickly. And she's got one shot to like move her momentum slightly, and then after that she has to fall back down to the ground. So keep in mind, after some point, I'm assuming. Well, actually, wait. Does Lady even need to reload her Kalina Ann?
No, we've never seen her reload it.
Okay. I mean, we've seen her reload like normal guns, but like Kalina Ann obviously is not a normal rocket launcher. It has been modified specifically for. Well, actually, I haven't read in Deadly Fortune if she actually has to reload Kalina Ann. That would because if she has to reload Kalina Ann, she probably loses like flat out um, before she even gets to the end of the lightning phase. If she doesn't, she'll survive a little longer, and she's going to get camped out by the lightning particles. Because what's going to happen is those lightning particles are going to track her to the ends of the earth, and they will keep following her forever, and she will have to deal with them. And then Cerberus will just slam his foot down on the ground and send like 80 lightning bolt things in every direction, except for like one specific direction, and will shock them momentarily afterwards to hit her. And he'll just keep doing that over and over and over again. It's also worth mentioning that we're not equalizing resistances here, and now granted, this isn't really like this isn't really a problem for most demons, right? Because most characters in this matchup are demons. Lady is technically human. She's like really some odd fucking form of superhuman. But she's never really like fought in like the demon world with characters that have like their full powers and have like proper status conditions. She usually just fights people that use mediums. Or even in the case of the Mephistos, they're literally just demons that hide behind cloaks of shadow and just poke you with like sharp objects. They don't actually use like energy attacks or things that could corrupt you. And Cerberus's lightning is definitely demonic energy. So any one of those attacks could potentially corrupt her or drain her stamina over time. Just being in Cerberus's like heat waves or his lightning waves is going to start draining her a little bit. So if she somehow even makes it through the lightning phase, which I don't think is likely, she's gonna get killed in the ice phase. That's gonna like she's gonna get frozen, and she will not have a way to break out of that. Unless you guys think that like frag grenade devil trigger is like less than pepperonis if you think that's like more accurate. But, yeah, I just don't think Lady beats King Cerberus. I think she loses.
That's fair. Like, especially if we're putting them in an arena.
Well, like I was thinking of it as a, like they're in the human world in this scenario, so like even if Lady has like the hometown advantage, more than likely they're probably going to be fighting on Vito Marley, and you've seen Vito Marley's like areas. They're very open in like the towns, or I guess in the city where the Warhorse Corporation is located. There's also like keep in mind, demons can also seal off areas in arenas to fight you directly. So if King Cerberus doesn't want her to leave, he can just seal off the room with demonic energy. So she'll just be trapped there.
All right, yeah, no, that's fair.
Are we allowing her to use Bayonetta to avoid damage and gap close?
No, this is not like a mechanic based fight. This is like sort of like considering everything.
Well, so she could do that in theory, but the problem is like again, just being near Cerberus is gonna corrupt her. Because in this scenario, she's the only like pure human that's actually fighting. Like her main advantage is that she fights like lesser demons. Lady has never fought a boss demon, let alone King Cerberus, who is one of the worst boss demons you should have to fight. Especially if we're accounting for like if you have no aerial mobility, his lightning phase is one of the worst nightmares to deal with. If you have like no resistances, his ice phase is the worst nightmare to deal with. And Lady has neither of these things. So she is not going to be able to account for this.
Yeah, because she's human ultimately.
Yes. Um, Cavalier Angelo featuring Megarian Knight. She did fight share Urizen with Trish. Yeah,
Okay.
that's adorable.
Okay.
Quote
Okay.
unquote fight.
So I don't think she can be Cavalier Angelo.
I don't think she could beat Garion. Okay, so remember what I just said about her not fighting boss demons? She never fought Garion. Dante fought Garion. Like I think Garion by himself could probably kill her because she would have no way to react to his like time bubbles. Not only would she not be able to see them, which basically means she's in the same boat as every other person outside of the DMC verse when DMC does like a cross versus matchup, where they can't see Quicksilver, so they just auto lose. Like she's in the same position. She literally can't do anything about it. She can get stacked multiple times. She can't catch Garion. All she can really do is set like a couple bombs and then maybe hope like Garion runs into them. But like, I mean, Garion in this case isn't like a complete
Mangler,
fucking
keep talking, but I'm gonna have to mute myself real quickly.
or that. Um, Garion's not a complete fucking idiot. He's being controlled by Cavalier in this circumstance, and Cavalier knows like at least some basic battle tactics. He's gonna see that Lady is using explosives, and he's gonna at least keep her distance if it does do a suitable amount of damage. And he'll also just zone her. So the time bubble shenanigans are gonna keep her under control until like Cavalier just takes several swipes at her. She also does not have the healing factor that other people do. She like Lady does have a pretty basic healing factor where she can get stabbed through like the leg and heal shortly afterwards. But the amount of pain that it takes and her ability to retain damage is nowhere near comparable to like the Spartas or other people. So she's not going to be able to take like 16-foot long like javelin, like this lightning spear javelin. Sorry, um, being stabbed through her abdomen. But we also argue Cavalier would have Trish's reflexes or battle knowledge somewhat of Lady's arsenal. Um, I don't think that's exactly fair. If you want to argue with that, then she absolutely curb stomps her 30 times out of 10 because she knows exactly what Lady's going to do. If she does it, keep in mind, she wouldn't need to because Garion's advantage state is just so strong. Garion can just keep time manipulating her. It's like if you're trying to play a video game, like a fighting game, and the opponent can just slow your character down passively. Like imagine you're trying to approach from across the screen in the 2D format, right? And your character just freezes, but the other character and everything in the background is working completely fine. That's Lady, where she can't see what's actually causing the freezing, and she's just getting stuck there, and there's nothing she can do about it. She can't like unplug her controller. She can't like turn off the game. She just has to deal with it because it's just part of the rules, part of how it works. So yeah, like Garion, instant win con. Cavalier can fight her by himself. Um, Either one of them by themselves could take her. Together, they're gonna slaughter her. So yeah, rather weird thing to all things considered. So I think we have a what 2-2 for that one.
2-2. Yep, that seems fair.
All right, now we get down to the big boys. Arius versus Urizen, faction leader versus faction leader. Zim, you hype up Arius quite a bit
I do.
because you were the one that do DMC2's research. So what is your professional opinion on this matchup?
I think Arius is about to fuck shit up.
Would you like to explain what he's capable of? Because I don't think we've actually had a conversation on this channel of what Arius can do.
So, hang on, let me just move this out of my way. So basically, kind of like his barriers, his summons, his spikes, his teleportation. Like, they're not too big of a power spike by themselves. He also can keep up with Dante in close quarters combat, which is going to be, great, obviously. But honestly, just the fact that he actually has powers and summons, because he can summon he can summon any one under his command. We already see that. Oh wait, actually, are we giving him the boss? Are we giving him the 4-2?
So all of his summonings are part of his powers. So he can summon other enemies to fight for him if he wants. So if he wants to summon Fumitaris, then he can. If he wants to summon a bunch of Homoscura lesser demons, he can. He's completely legally allowed to do that. Get it? Because he legally owns Ouroboros Corporation. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
You think you're funny?
I am hilarious. But let's continue. Anyway.
Yeah, no. So, the power set's not too crazy for an equalized scenario. And I guess he has a gun. I guess he has gun.
Oh yeah, I forgot he has gun. I forgot he has a fucking gun.
You forgot gun? The most powerful weapon?
Yeah, so I would also like to say he has access to the secretaries, who literally are just Lucia. They just have Lucia's arsenal.
Yes.
So
and he has
they all have
as many
own,
as he wants.
They all have. Well, they also have their own devil triggers as well, and they also have infinite throwing knives. So he can just keep summoning them to keep fighting forever. From what I've found, at least in the game, he has access to fire manipulation, some light manipulation, but he can summon any kind of demons he wants. He also has binding capabilities, so he can bind you from a range.
No, like no. He has like a black hole attack that sucks you in.
No. He actually has like what's it called? Let me see if I can find it here. On this Bandicam.
I was gonna say, yeah, he does have BFR as well. Fucking black hole manipulation. So the problem here is that Yours
He
is.
also has invisible. He also has invisible barriers that can deflect projectiles around his body at all times.
It's like it's two
Which,
shield guys, but the problem is that Arius can just swarm him eventually, even if you were like he can handle all of Urizen's offense, and by all of his offense, I mean like his what two main attacks.
so all of his guards, basically, he looks at Urizen. Urizen's like, "What are you?" I'm like, "I'm you, but better." You see, you have that crystal, right? Defends you, but see, it's limited. It only goes directly in front of you to block all these attacks. My shields are omnidirectional. They always have a reprisal immediately. They don't have to wait 10 seconds for this weird, stupid, obvious wind up, right? Like they just happen as soon as someone looks in my general direction. I get to poke you. Um, my barriers are also invisible, and they deflect projectiles. They don't just like get rid of them. They send them back to you with increased speed and damage. And then on top of that, I can summon a main copies of a main character's arsenal to come out and just do my bidding for me and die for me at a moment's notice. And then just send like lesser demons to fight as well. I can even summon bosses to fight for me. Isn't that great?
Yeah, and
He
actually,
also can BFR. He can also BFR, by the way.
yes,
So he could
I did
BFR the
I
crystal
did mention that.
for a second. Yeah, so he could BFR it for a moment while the secretaries jump inside of like Urizen's armor and start stabbing it. And Urizen's not going to be in the position to handle that pretty accurately because his main we're using Urizen 2 here, so his main tactic is I'm going to swing the tentacles and hit you, but how are you going to hit them at that angle when they're inside of your shoulder blades? And how are you going to deal with Arius when, again, the secretaries are shoving their like Damascus steel inside your shoulder blades? So clearly, you're going to have to focus on one or the other. I mean, granted, he could deploy the Artemis like light beams, but I mean, they're Artemis's light beams. What are they actually going to hit?
Hey, they stepped up on Dante a little bit.
Well, so, like, I would say, like, maybe he could use the Garian abilities, but like, Arius fought DMC2 Dante. Like, what feats do your powers actually have, huh? Pretty sure Dante's usage with time manipulation is probably a little bit better than your Garian Knight. Probably. Plus, it's the same Garian.
You don't
So,
sound too confident with your statement, though.
Goliath's fireball. Oh, look at that! It can be deflected. Guess who has an invisible barrier that can deflect projectiles around them? Arius.
Even including that, you also have the actual fucking like the actual shadows spiking call upon everything.
Also, keep in mind the Fusotaris, like Minotaur thing that he has access to. That thing is as big as Urizen is. So he could just summon that and have it bum rush Urizen and turn
No,
this into
like
like a fucking like Colossus battle.
regardless of how this turns out, there's never going to be really a case where Urizen's going to be able to sit there and actually get
No, he
value
can't.
on your Arius.
So he can't camp. Let's establish that he can't camp because he's gonna have to deal with this giant flaming Minotaur, insane bull thing that keeps running at him. Which, by the way, that thing also has vacuum effects. So it can sit in the middle of the room and just pull Urizen towards it. Even if Urizen has a barrier, he's still going to get pulled towards the Minotaur, which is then going to start whacking at the barrier directly. And
This
then, Arius will just sit back and just zone the barrier with the secretaries and all of his demons until he can safely get inside. And all Urizen can do is like the power geyser thing, which like we're talking about the amount of time that Arius has to pay attention, like what Arius has to do in his disadvantage. Just watch his feet for the power geysers. What does Urizen have to do in disadvantage? Pay attention to the massive horde of demons that are attacking him. This giant flame fucking demon that's his size and is whacking away at his barrier and is vacuum pulling him around the room. The secretaries that are jumping on his shoulder blades, shoving Damascus steel up his fucking rib cage, and the other boss that he's fighting that's summoning other bosses to fight him. and is teleporting around the room at all this time, making all of his attacks completely ineffective, and has resistances to all the powers and abilities that he already has because he's already fought people with better versions of them that have already beaten all these characters before. So,
Wait. Do we give him the butterfly?
yeah, because he can BFR you to where the butterfly is.
Yeah,
So
no.
he could just BFR him into that dimension, follow him in there where the butterfly is, summon in the Minotaur and the secretaries, and then just fight him with half of DMC2's enemy roster.
This really
He could
just feels
also,
like a case of that. Like, this is closer than the other fights Urizen's had this. Well, actually, no. Well, no.
like,
The only one that's like. The only one that was more fair was like Abigail. But, like, Abigail had no powers. Arius has the spikes and more.
I mean, honestly, the only one that was like back and forth really was like Mundus, because Sanctus was a stomp, fucking Abigail was a stomp. Mundus had conditions where he lost, but in character he would never let himself get down to the ground. At least, like the problem is that Arius, like even in a close quarters fight, can you say that Arius is like in disadvantage because he's got like 5 fucking barriers around his body? He's got hordes of demons that are willing to die for him at a moment's notice, take any amount of blows that he needs, and then like, actually, wait a minute, can't Arius also heal
I believe so.
by like drinking wine and stuff?
That one I'm
Well,
not
so
too
I
sure
think,
on. I wasn't paying attention to his fucking health bars. I was trying to kill him.
well, so I say that because like I believe he does something where if you leave him alone for long enough, he sits on his table and he starts drinking back his health with the wine. Now it's only like a sip here and there, but I'm fairly certain he can heal a little bit.
If you think he can heal, like that's possible. That's probably likely.
Not that we even need to like include that,
No.
because Arius' like arsenal is already really, really good. But yeah, like it's not good here. I don't think Urizen any sort of advantage Urizen has is just not really gonna work in his favor. To be completely honest, like this is probably a harder stomp than Mundus is. The only thing that kind of like outscales this is like Argosax's, but I mean, how do you compete with I have every single power in existence?
I'm gonna say it really feels a little unfair because we had like two Demon King level fucking fighters here. We had fucking Chen, and then we had fucking Arius too, or at least we had two like we had
Well,
two final bosses going on here. You know?
oh, I was also going to mention like that's a little bit unfair, but it's just something that we had to include for the purposes of like what criteria fits the factions. Chen is a final boss enemy. He's not in one of the games, but he is the final boss of the DMC2 novel. So his power set certainly matches someone in that category. So he was always guaranteed to get a flat W's across the board in his matchups. I'm pretty sure even if we put him against yours, that it wouldn't make a difference. In fact, there's an argument to be made that he could probably beat most of the faction leaders by himself with the beast heads. But anyway, yeah, I think Artis takes this.
Are you sure? Are you sure? Who knows?
Arius is just a max level V. Urizen's ground explosion. Yeah, so Urizen has a ground explosion in the game where you see blue geysers come out of the ground, but they are telegraphed a little bit. It's just they're really only good when you overlay them with like Artemis's light beam and like other tentacles. The reason why Urizen's like setups are so good is because he can just like overlay multiple projectiles. He's got the crystal barrier and the armor, so he can usually just get around you. His
Nothing.
knockback as well.
No, it's because like nothing in Urizen's arsenal is really gonna make much of a difference here. That's kind of like the problem.
Yeah, like even if we give him like, oh, let's say we give him all the summon swords, right, and then like all the portal hopping, which I forgot to mention, it doesn't really make a difference. Because, like, Summon Swords is so good when every enemy on the team doesn't, the opponent team doesn't have access to their own version of, like, an infinite projectile like Summon Swords. Such as the secretaries who all have access to their infinite supply of silver daggers, hordes of whom are being summoned by Arius at every possible moment and are willing to die for him. Well, actually, not are willing to die for him, are programmed to die for him.
Nonsense.
So, yeah, I think that's probably a wrap for round 3. I believe.
So what's the score right now? Like, you want to tally up the score for the people listening?
Okay, so it is 3-1 for Arkham,
All right.
4-0 for Lucia, 4-0 for Chen, and 2-2 for Lady. That is 13-3, with the Arius winning the faction win. So, by comparison, I believe the Order of the Sword won with 14, but lost their faction. Um, Argosaxes won the faction and won by about 15. So, oddly enough, they actually did worse than the Order of the Sword did. So I think that was mainly due to Lady.
I
I
was
think
gonna
that was
say,
primarily due to Lady.
had we had someone who could possibly do something in general, I think we would have had a different story here.
And even Arkham's situation, like his one losing thing was against Cavalier. It wasn't even like that bad of a situation. It was just like Cavalier being like a spammy asshole.
Just Cavalier
but
being Cavalier.
yeah, so that does it for round 5.
All right. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen. Oh wait, well, do you want to talk about what the next matchup's gonna be,
I was
or?
going to be next will be the final round in the human world, which will be the Spartas. That should be fun.
Now, some of you are probably thinking yourselves, why are you guys doing the Spartas if like they clearly are going to win since they won?
Because it would be fun to talk about them regardless.
At this point, we might as well.
You're gonna like it.
At this point, we might as well finish off the whole set.
Yes. We should be done now.
All right, sounds good. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for your time as always. Have a nice day, and I'll see you guys on the next stream or video. Take care, everybody.